Yeah, so good morning and welcome back. So I think this is our final scene. After that, we'll just do lessons learned and whatever we have to do and close it. So today, I'm going straight into unit of work. I'm going to show you two ways of implementing your unit of work. Show you a general way, which I don't see very efficient because you have to write a lot of codes. So I'm going to do the general way. I'm going to write the generic one that you can also just use, write once and use for all. So let's get started. So what is the problem we are trying to resolve here? The problem here is after separating our concerns, now we have our queries here, we have our business logics here, we have presentation here. When we go back to our business logic, for instance, if I take repository, no, this is, we have it here. When I take instructor service, perfect. We realize that we had a business requirement here that when you are deleting an instructor, make sure you delete all related courses too. And we realize that you have to call a save on both repositories. What this means is all these repositories are using different instance of the DB context. So when you call a save on this, it's just going to save whatever is in this context. And when you call a save, it's going to save what is in this context, which is not a good implementation. This has to be transactional. So we should find a way to make sure all this context, all these repositories are using the same DB context. So we can call our save just once, and whatever changes we've done so far within this whole block will be saved at once. So straight, let's go to our data access level. Let's add an interface here called our unit of work. Let's call this our unit of work, which should be public. Perfect. Now the same repo, let's add a class and we name this one unit of work. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Unit of work. Perfect. Let's see. Unit of work. So this should also be what? Public. This should be public and should inherit from or to implement. Sorry. Implement the I unit of work interface. So what am I going to have here? First, I'm going to expose my repositories over here so that from a unit of work you can get any repository that you want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a public I instructor repository. Let's call this instructor repository. Good. So this is going to be just a get. You are not allowed to set anything to this, but you can get this. So this is just going to be get. And we have public I instructor course repository called instructor course repository. And this is also just a get. Good. Then we're going to have the public I course repository, which is I course, which is course repository, sorry, course repository. And this is also a get. Good. Now, what do we do here? We will have a constructor here. And anytime you are using this unit of work, we are expecting you to pass a DB context. DB context. Call context to us. So what we are going to do here is this over here, which is the instructor, which is, let's do it just this dot instructor repository is going to be equal to a new instructor repository, which we will pass our context to. Good. And we're going to have this dot what? Instructor course repository, which is going to be a new this, and we pass our context to. Now, can you see the issue here? We are still building dependencies here. We'll look at how to resolve that. These dots, and then we have course repository will be equal to new one, course repository, and then we pass our context. So what we are trying to do here is, on calling your unit of work, we are instantiating all our repositories and passing a context to them. So all these repositories use one DB context. Now, what happens? We need to implement our save. We need a private read-only DB context. Let's call this one context or DB context here. And what will happen is we are going to these dots underscore DB context to be equal to the context you've provided to us. So that when we are implementing our save, which is here, what we'll just do is we're just going to return and make reference to our DB context dot what save changes. Perfect. So this is just a simple implementation for a unit of work, what it should do, like the whole brain behind it, what the logic behind it. So what I'm going to do is let me put this here. So we have int save, and then what else do we have here? Unit of work. We have this. It's supposed to be inside here, good. In the constructor too. In the interface. Good. We have this here too. And we have this here. Perfect. So what happens is now when we go to our instructor service, I can take this off. I can take this whole thing here off. So I can take this off and say, okay, private read only. Let me call this I unit of work, which is a unit of work now, and do an injection over here. Perfect. So instead of this, I can now say I unit of work. Dot. What do I need? I need an instructor repository here. Dot add, and I can now do unit of work dot save. Perfect. Same here, I can do unit of work dot what? Instructor repository find. Same here, I can do unit of work dot instructor repository. So let me just copy and do pasting for the rest. Everywhere I find instructor, okay, and this is instructor course repository, so I can do just unit of work dot instructor course repository, and then I can do same here. So let me get this same as this. Okay, let me just type it. So we have unit of work dot instructor course repository, and this is a save. So now these two save statements will now go, because I'm using a unit of work. I can just do unit of work dot save, and that should work. So same applies here. We don't need this again. What we need is a unit of work dot what dot save. Good. And if we want to get all here, we need a unit of work dot what instructor repository dot get all. Perfect. So we have this working now. Let's not forget, let's make sure we do our binding for this in Ninject. So we go to our UI, go to AppStat, go to Ninject, webcoms, and inside here we do our kernel dot bind I unit of work to unit of work. Good. Perfect. So simple implementation or simple ideology, the concept behind unit of work. This is all we are trying to do. So our repositories use what? A common DB context. Now, Let's test this and see what happens now. And let's put a breakpoint at the delete again. This is delete instructor and see what would happen. Perfect. Perfect. So we go to instructor, we go to instructors. We still have our instructors coming here. Now let's go to instructor course, which is this. So we have programming Java by Elvis. We are going, let's do some for Sam or somebody or Sam Gala. So what we are going to do is, oh, sorry, we have to go back. So create new. Let's do programming in C# for Osam. Good. Now let's go back to instructors and delete Osam and see what happens. So Osam is there. Let's try deleting Osam. We have here and hit delete. So this is our breakpoint. We are in delete. When we move 1, 2, get all, we have it. And then we said remove range from here. So immediately we hit save for this. What happened is we don't need to, you see, Osam is gone from here. And if we should go to, sorry, if we go to instructor course to courses, you realize that this has also been deleted. So with unit of work, it manages to make sure you just some kind of transactional listen so that you don't have to be calling save and all this on different repositories. But then look at how tedious this is going to look. This actually is a whole lot of work. I mean, if you have about 100 repositories, you have to be writing these properties here. Fine, it's good, you can do this, but it's not every time that you even need to call your unit of work, because there are some places you may not do a save, you just want to get data and all that. So why not just do this more generic? So let's see how we are going to handle that. Let's see how you're going to handle that. So first, let me take all this off. Let me take all this off. Let me take our unit of work, our interface to off. Then let's start something. Let's see a better presentation for this. So let me come back here. First, I'm going to define a read-only DB context and make it a context. Let's call it a context. Fine. Now, I'm going to define a dictionary of, you get it? Read only to dictionary of what? Of a type and what? An object. And let me call this repositories. Fine. Now, after this, I'm going to implement a disposable pattern here. If you don't know about disposable patterns, I would refer you to read more on Microsoft. We have disposable pattern. You should read more on it on Microsoft's website. It's beyond, we can't discuss this here because of time. So we have the disposable pattern here. You can read more on it. Perfect. But for now, I'm going to implement what? An disposable pattern here. So I'll call this disposed, and I'll set this to false. Perfect. Now I'll create a constructor here. Sorry. Then my context over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to inject a DB context here, as we did in the first one too. DB context, and so this dot my context will be equal to the context that is injected here through the constructor. Is that okay? Now, what about my repositories? My repositories here will be equal to what? A new of dictionary of this. This is what I'm going to use to manage a list of repositories that has been called into memory. Fine, period. Now, one is I come here and I implement a generic method that can be used to do whatever we're doing first. At first, we call unit of work dot the repository. So the unit of work now is going to be generic so that you call it unit of work and pass the repository to it so that it does the binding by itself. So we have a public, it is going to return an I repository because most of all of our repositories now are inheriting from I repository. So since they are uh, inheriting from I repository, this generic method can return a type of I repository and it's going to work for all of them. So we have T, an I repository of T called repository, and that is also going to expect what? A T. Is that okay? And is a method. You get it? Where T is what? Is inherit is a type of what? Class. Hope we are following this. Perfect. So now the first thing we do, if what? If the repositories dot the keys inside dot contains, sorry, dot contains whatever you are trying to access, whatever repository you are trying to access, so a type of what? The type of T that you have submitted by calling this method. If it is already inside the repositories, I hope you are getting this. So you are trying to get a repository using the unit of work so that they all use the same DB context. You are going to call this method passing a class here. So if whatever dictionary we have here, the keys there contains any type of this T that you are asking for, what we will do is we are not going to create a new one. We are just going to return from inside those repositories using that a type of what? Of T of the repository you are trying to access as what? An I repository of what? Of T. Hope this makes clear. Hope this is clear. Now, what if it doesn't already exist? What if it doesn't exist? And what we are going to do is I repository of T, we define it as a repo. Is that okay? Which is going to be a new what? I repository of T. And because this is inheriting from what? From the repository, it asks for what? A DB context that should be passed to it, and that we are going to pass whatever we've received from here and have assigned it to this and pass it here for it to accept this. Perfect. So after creating a new repository for you, what we are going to do, we are going to add it to the dictionary that we already have as a type of what? So what's going to be the key? The key is going to be a type of T, and the object is going to be what? The repo from what we have defined here. So the type here and then the object here. Then what do? We return the repo to you. Perfect, 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 perfect. Hope this makes a lot of sense. Hope this makes a lot of sense. Yes. So since we now have this in place, what we are going to do is we can now implement our save. So we can now say public void. Is that okay? And we call this what? Save what? Changes. So all we are going to do here is call to our context dot what? Save changes. After this is a managed resource. So garbage collector will find difficult disposing this. That is why I said we have to implement what? Our disposable pattern here. I'm not going to talk more on this. I'll just do the implementation. If you want to know more about this, I've shown in a link to Microsoft website. Please go and do some little research there and get to understand the implementation for this. So we have a bool disposing, which we've already set to false. Let's call this disposing, which we have already set to false. So if underscore disposed and it is disposing, what do we do? Our context, we dispose it. Is that okay? Then we set what? Dispose to what? To true over here. Then we implement the public of this, which is dispose, and we call our method here, which is this. We call our method here and make our suppress finalize. So this is going to be gc dot suppress finalize this. Perfect, 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 perfect. So what do we need again? We've implemented our generic unit of work, and inside our how do you call it? Our unit of work, we need to expose this for anybody who wants to use it. So we're going to have a repository of T, which is the method name is repository of what? Of T, where T is what? Is a class. Good. Oh, what have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? Okay, what have I done wrong? This is a class. Good. Then we also do for view void. We have save what changes. Good, 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 good. So now let's go back here. That means whatever we've deleted from here earlier, we are bringing them back. We're bringing them back. We'll bring them back. Perfect. So this was how it was when we implemented the first scenario of unit of work. Now, what we're going to do here is this. Instead of taking this off, it is not every action here that needs to save data to DB. So we are going to maintain this way. But instead, we are going to add our unit of work here, our unit of work as our unit of work, and also inject this through the constructor, which is there. Yeah. So it's injected through the constructor here. So only the places that we are saving data. For instance, this, do we really need a unit of work here? We don't need the unit of work here. Even though I would suggest we take this save from the repositories, so people don't make good. So these repositories now have save here. What do? We can now go to our implementation of repository now. That was why earlier I said I didn't want to implement a save here. So we can take this save off from here. And inside the interface too, we take it off for now. Yes, inside the interface, we open it, we take save off from here. So we don't have a save anymore inside our repository. If you want to do data saving, you make a call to the repository. So look at how I'm going to call this. I have this object here. If I want to save, I'm going to do unit of work. Sorry, I'll start from here. Unit of work dot repositories, which is our generic method. And which repository am I trying to get here? I'm trying to get what? Instructor repository. Perfect. And then I'll add what? Dot add. Let me see. Sorry. Dot add. And I'll add my what? Object to this. What is the error here? Okay, sorry. Perfect. What am I? Okay, I'm trying to get a repository for instructor insert. So this is going to be instructor. Good. Then I'm just going to call unit of work dot what? Save changes. Perfect. So this is how our final work is going to look like. So instead of this instructor course, I'm going to have unit of work dot repository instructor course. Let me just type in instructor course. Oh, this is a save. So let's take this away. Let's take this off. So we are going to have only one save, which is what? Our unit of work dot what? Save changes. When we remove this, that is where the changes will be. So instructor. Now we are not going to get instructor this way again. We have to get it from the unit of work so that it will be bound to the same context. Then we can do our changes to it. So what we are going to do is from here, we are going to use unit of work dot what? Repository which is what? This is instructor repository dot find. So we are finding with what? ID. Perfect. So now we are using the context of unit of work to find because we want to do an update. Then from here is going to be unit of work dot repository, which is what? Instructor repository, and then we remove instructor from there. Now when we are getting all courses, fine, we get all courses by how we use after getting all these courses, so we get only the IDs. Let's change this. Go to implementation. Perfect. So instead of we are return an ID of this, which is going to be we select x.id. This implementation can be done better anyway. But for the purpose of this, let me just do this and then where is the interface? Go to definition. This is the interface, so this is now returning an ID of this. So when we are back to our service, whatever we have here, so we're going to do this. So for each instructor in this, what are you going to do? Unit of work repository, which is what? Which is let's get it as an object, which is instructor course. We find there what? The all instructor. We pass our ID to it. This should be an integer. Sorry, let me check this. Okay, so the issue here is this. We are calling a method instead of this. Let me change this name so that we have a perfect. We don't get ourselves confused here. Good. So for each of those that we have, we get what we are going to do. A unit of work dot repository of what? Of instructor course. We remove what? The object. Good. After all this, what do? We just call a save change here. And even ReachAppa is giving you an option here to convert this to a better option like this. Perfect. Hope you get this. So we can still do a better implementation of this, but this is going to make this course very lengthy and we'll end it here. No worry. So over here too, since we are getting existing object, we are not going to get it this way. We are going to get it from unit of work dot what? A repository. And what is a repository? The repository is instructor And what are we doing? We are finding using what? This object dot what? ID. Good. So whatever we get here, we do update. All we have to do is the unit of work dot what? Save what? Changes. Perfect. So these are the places we need to use our unit of work, and we've used them. Now, because we've taken the save implementation out of the generic repository, our other controllers are going to break. So what I'll do is I'll just take them out of the project so that we can run this project. And then, so the cause is going to break because the save is no more there. Save is no more there. Okay, let me just comment them out so we can still run our projects. And when we come to instructor course 2, there's going to be a break there. And a break here too. And a break here. So I've taken them out. Finally, we are here. So let me run this and let's see how this works. So we are going to delete who? We're going to delete Elvis and see how it works. Let's put a breakpoint first. Let's put a breakpoint. So inside my service, where's my service? Let me close this. Let me close this to the instructor service. Inside my service, this is delete. Let me put a breakpoint here and see how this works. Good. So we go to instructor. Let's open up this a little. Instructor courses. Let's go there. So programming Elvis is here. Let's go to instructor. Good. You have Elvis here. So let's try delete Elvis. We hit delete here. Good. We are already here. So what do? We go through here. We get this. Do we have the instructor? Yes, we have the instructor. Good. We come here. So it goes through. And then we call a save and back. Bam. And Elvis is gone. And when we go back to, instructor courses, let's refresh this. It is gone. So perfectly, this is how to implement this. I'm going to do a last video of the recap of the whole thing because this has always been trying to find a problem and how to solve it, find a problem and how to solve it. So I'm going to do a final video, take you through step by step where you have to start from when you are starting the project, because I started from the top to bottom. So I'm going to take you through step by step from bottom upwards. Thank you. So finally, let's close all this and go to what we're talking about. So all this wasn't in there, all this wasn't part. The only thing that we're trying to do is this repo over here, and this is it. So we have an interface for our unit of work. We have an interface for our repository, and we have the implementation for our generic unit of work, and we have for our generic repository. That is all, and this is all about the repository pattern and unit of work. So that is also any repository I add here now, we're just going to implement just like this. We'll take this form. Any new repository will take this. To just be implementing whatever we have now, and perfectly, that is it. When there's an upgrade and we need to make a change, or where we're doing the change to our persistent framework is this. This is where we are doing the change to our persistent framework, because never again are we going to write this and find, save changes, and all that. I will add range and all that in any place in our code, because this is going to be done here, and that is it. Thank you for watching, and wait for the last scene. Thank you.